How many tomato plants do you need to grow per person? Well, this is going to be a different answer for everybody because it really depends on how you like to use your tomatoes. Do you like to use them only as fresh tomatoes? Well, then you probably only need 5 to 6 tomatoes in your garden. But if you want to do canning and preserving, then you're going to need more. What we're looking at here is a row of 13 tomato plants that I've just recently put in that I will be getting stakes into so that they don't interfere with their roots later on. And this again is 13 plants. So 13 plants, if you're really doing a high level of canning and preserving, this would be about what you want per person in your household. Now, to be honest, this is not going to be enough for all of my canning and preserving and fresh eating needs, but it will get me probably to about halfway because I've chosen varieties that are dual and multi-purpose, with the exception of one. So the first one here is a cherry tomato. I'm growing one single cherry tomato for fresh eating, but in my household, there's only 2 of us that actually like fresh tomatoes, so that's okay. The bulk of it will go into, some of these will be used for slicers, and then the bulk of it will go into canning and preserving. And mostly those are going to be sauce, perhaps some puree, and some dehydrated tomatoes. So what I've got here, I've got the cherries. If you do have some, you can do some different dehydrating, and some of the extras can go into sauce, but largely I'm not going to look to those for canning. What I have chosen are 2 other varieties that are very good for saucing and multi-purpose. So I've got an Early Girl and I've got a Celebrity. So those give me a lot of flexibility. We're only going to be eating a little bit for fresh slicing because, again, there's only a couple of us that eat them, and then most of those will be going into different canning and saucing needs. So the numbers you want to look at are 1 to 3 plants per person for fresh eating. And again, that depends. Do you just want them a couple of times a week, throwing them into some salads? Then, a cherry tomato and maybe a slicer are going to do you just fine. And maybe even on the low end of that, maybe just a couple might get your whole household through. Assuming you're a household of 4. For canning, you want 4 to 8 per person. And again, that's going to depend. Go with the lower end of the range if you're just doing a little bit, say some sauce and some salsa. But if you're doing a lot of different things or you want a high volume of that, then you're going to want to go to the 8, maybe even up to 12 plants per person. Now, keep in mind, again, I'm a big proponent of the multi-purpose and multi-use, dual-purpose kind of tomatoes. So because you can just get more out of them, more flexibility. If there's a week when you don't want to eat tomatoes, then put them all into sauce or for the canning and preserving. And then, vice versa. If there's a week when you're not preserving, then go ahead and make some nice tomato salads and use those up some more. Also keep in mind that, finding the right number for you is going to depend a lot on different things like your growing season, local availability, things like that. You can always supplement with a good quality grower nearby you. Often by the fall, we find great deals on canning tomatoes as the farms get overrun. Final note here is that even though we call certain tomatoes, say a canner, a saucing tomato, a paste tomato, really all tomatoes can be used for just about everything. Again, the cherry tomato, maybe not such a great thing for the sauce, but if I have a bowl full of them, I will throw them in the sauce. It's just that you tend to get more seeds with them for the amount of meatiness that you're getting. So, you wouldn't want to make your sauce all out of cherry tomatoes, but throwing some extras to use them up into the sauce pot is not a bad idea either. So, that's that. It really depends on you, your household, and your use, but pick a number, start there, take some good notes, and then you'll know how to adjust and tweak for the future years ahead.